How's it going, everyone? Yusuf back here with another video, and I hope you're having an amazing week so far. Today, I wanted to go on a little drive with you and have a chat because, well, we've come to the end of an era. I, probably like a lot of you watching this video, have grown up with Top Gear and the Grand Tour and watching Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond, and James May just enjoy the chemistry of their friendship over the course of the last 22 years. And for me, it's been so exciting. That helped spark my love and passion for cars. I always enjoyed hearing what they had to say, their polarizing views, the just banter that they had between them about what they loved and what they didn't like. And for me, it was so exciting watching and being a part of that journey. And now, 22 years later, the show has come to an end, and the three of them have gone their separate ways. But in the last episode of the Grand Tour, Jeremy Clarkson said something really profound, and it bothered me for a few weeks, which is why I didn't make the video until now. But he said that cars are becoming appliances. He said that cars are becoming, just things that nobody can really be passionate about or that would be exciting to review. And so that bothered me, and it made me a little angry because I love cars and I feel like they're amazing, and it's so exciting to be a part of it and drive cars and experience them and see them. But I think he was right. So today we're going to go on a little bit of a drive because I want to talk about this in a bit more detail, and what better way to do it than to get in the Golf R and go for a little drive. So let's put on our seatbelts, let's grab a cup of coffee, let's go for a drive. Okay, so here's the thing. This is why the comment really bothered me. Every time I talk to people who are not car people, and you ask them, what car was that? Or have you seen this? Or did you hear about this cool car? They don't really understand, and they're like, what do you mean, Yosef? What do you care about these cars? They're all the same. They're all fast, they all make noise. They all get you from point A to point B. There's nothing really exciting about them. And that always bothers me, to be honest with you, because I always think, well, how can you look at cars and see them all being exactly the same when they're all so unique and they have their own personalities? They've got all these characteristics that make them more interesting and unique and different from one another, and they just don't seem to see it. And it always bothers me when that happens. So when Jeremy Clarkson said, these cars are all just becoming appliances and all the same and there's nothing unique about them, it really hit home. But it got me thinking. I've driven a lot of cars, and I've driven a lot of cars recently, and there is some truth to that. Now hear me out, because I'm not saying that all cars are the same, and I'm not saying that there is no excitement in the automotive industry anymore because of what is going on in the world. But if you take a look at cars now versus cars, 30, 40 years ago, cars now are designed by science. They're designed by wind tunnels. They're designed by regulations. They're designed by fuel economy. They're designed by all these factors that kind of take away from the soul and passion of automakers. Many years ago, if you think about the stories of Ferrari and Lamborghini and Pagani and Aston Martin and some of the really cool brands, even some of the British ones, Lancia, you talk about, TVR, some of the really cool brands out there, these brands were built on the basis of wanting to build something amazing, wanting to build a car that provides an emotional experience and not just a physical one of being in the car and actually driving it. And that was special. They didn't have so many people reaching into their pockets, saying, oh, we can't do that, oh, we can't do this because of whatever else is going on. And that's shaped the way that cars are designed. And that is a good thing, and it's also not a very good thing. Now, the good part about that is, well, cars are getting very fast. Cars are great to drive. They're all very comfortable. They're all very easy to drive. You don't have, difficult experiences with them. They're all very efficient. It's really nice to get into a car and not have to pay a ridiculous amount of money at the gas pump. So there are definitely benefits to this, but there is something that's lost in translation here. And I take a look at, even my first car. My first car was a 2006 Mazda 6. It was a hatchback. It was a manual transmission. It was a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. It wasn't by any stretch an amazing car. It wasn't by any stretch a very fast car. And if you look at the specs, you know, it didn't really have a whole lot of technology. But other than that, it was a car that I really loved. I loved the way it looked. I loved the fact that it was a manual transmission and I had to work for it. It didn't have all the sort of aids and nannies that we have now. It didn't have a backup camera. It didn't have lane assist and, you know, adaptive cruise control and hill assist and any of that stuff. It was just, you know, get in the car and drive. And I loved that car. I adored it. It was so incredible to me because it was my first car. And if you think about all the cars that I have ever wanted in life, you know, I think about all the great movies, all the car movies out there. Gone in 60 Seconds. You've got Eleanor, the 1967 fastback, you know, Ford Mustang. You think about the AC Cobras, the Shelby Cobras from, you know, Ford versus Ferrari. You know, you think about the stories of James Bond with all the Aston Martins that he's had over the years, the DB5s, you know, the DBSs, the Vanquishes, you know, all these amazing cars. And I don't know, how many cars nowadays can you think of that are truly amazing? They're all technically amazing. You think about a McLaren P1, for example. You think about, you know, all these really special cars that can go super fast. You know, Rimac Nevera, it's unbelievable. It's a car that can go from 0 to 60 or 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in, you know, well under 2 seconds. It's really impressive. It's so cool. But every car is going to be fast. Every car is going to be exciting to drive in a straight line. But how many cars are going to be truly exciting to get into and drive and experience and, you know, just feel that emotional connection with? I don't know. I think about all the cars that are coming out in the next few years, and I think about all the cars that are out now, and I just don't have the same excitement for them either. It's crazy that I feel really crazy saying that, but I just don't feel like I have that same excitement when you hear about the latest, I don't know, Jag that's coming out, the latest Aston Martin or the latest Alfa Romeo or whatever performance car, insert there, that you hear coming out. I just don't have that same excitement for it. And not because they're not going to be exciting cars and fun to drive, but they're all so numb. They're kind of dumbed down, if you will. Every car now has a million settings for suspension, for throttle response, for steering. There isn't that connection that you have with the driving experience. You feel like you're almost in a video game. And that's really odd. It's such a different experience than what we had a few years ago. And, you know, Jeremy Clarkson, I think, hit it on the head when he said that, you know, the next generation is not going to have that same experience. They're not going to know what it feels like to, you know, just get in the car and, you know, have it really tickle your senses, you know? And I do hear that. One of the reasons why, you know, I want to combat that is the going away of manual transmissions. We don't have a lot of manuals left, and any manual is better than no manual in my opinion, but you know, they're not the same as what they used to be. They're definitely easier to drive, don't get me wrong, and I love that, but you know, you don't have that same connected feeling that you would have from a manual transmission car from a decade ago or 2 decades ago. So I think what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of really cool technology that's coming out to help cars get better and more efficient and safer and all that good stuff, but it's also taking away the passion and the connectedness that we have with cars. They can still be exciting and they can still be beautiful, but they're all kind of looking the same. All the interiors have insane screens and lots of ambient lights and lots of technology, and it's the same thing on the outside of cars. You know, they're becoming sleeker and more aerodynamic, and it's great for the environment and it's great for lots of other reasons, but they're just not as exciting to look at. And when you get in them, they're just not as exciting to drive. You don't have that same passion for them. So I think we're at the end of an era. And as much as I hate to say it, I truly agree now with Jeremy Clarkson. I don't think that cars are not worth reviewing, because otherwise I wouldn't be doing this, but it's going to be a lot more difficult because all cars are going to feel very similar. You know, you're not going to have that wide range of, you know, driving a muscle car versus a luxury car versus a performance car, a track-oriented car, a car that was designed, just to give you that emotion, with the sound that it makes and the feeling that you get when you go around corners and the vibrations that you get in the car. You just don't have that anymore. So it is sad, and to me it's kind of unfortunate. But I know there's a lot of good things coming, and I know that car brands are trying to make electric cars a little more exciting and engaging to drive too. I mean, you've got the Hyundai Ioniq 5N, which is really cool because it simulates gears and it gives you the sound of, an internal combustion engine car, and you can play around with that too, but it's just not the same. And I think it's very much the same experience with life. If you think about technology in general, technology is there to make life better, right? It makes things easier for us. We don't have to remember things anymore. We've got everything at our fingertips. We've got great navigation that tells us even where police are and where accidents are and how to avoid traffic. And, you've got everything on your phone. You've got everything on your watch. You've got all the information you could ever want at your disposal. And, technology just makes doing everyday stuff really easy. You've got ChatGPT, you've got AI and all these other things that, again, just make life simpler. But I don't think it's making life better. And if you think about it, when I was a kid, when I was growing up, and, all the generations before, they were more engaged with life. They were outside more. They had to live in the moment. They had to enjoy and experience things. They had to work hard for getting information or to do things. Now you can learn pretty much anything on YouTube in the matter of a few minutes. You don't need to go to colleges and, try things to really get to know it. You can learn so much, which is obviously amazing, but it takes away that connection that you have with the effort that it takes to go and do something. And so I think the same thing that's happening with the auto industry is happening with life. And that to me also is a little sad. It's again, great to have all the technology and have access to information, but I don't think that life is getting better. I think life is getting easier, and I don't know what that's going to hold for the future, but I think it's just something to be aware of. And I hope people can reflect back on that and look in a few years and say, well, what can we do to change that? What can we do to get away from technology so that when we go for walks with our kids or when we're at home with them, that we're not all sitting on devices, and that we can enjoy and appreciate time together and, live in the moment more and not just sort of record it and try to, save it for later, and live through it virtually. And I hope that's also the case for the automotive industry. I really hope that at a certain point, cars are kind of going to be able to go back and people will appreciate those amazing, cool cars that we've had, from when I grew up and my parents' generation, the stuff in the late 60s and, the early 2000s. And that our kids' generation can appreciate that too. Because if that goes away and is all lost, I do worry about what the automotive industry is going to be like in 10, 15, 20 years from now. I don't think my kids are ever going to have the same experience that I had when I had posters on my wall of Lamborghini Countaches and the original Audi R8 and Vector W8s and all the cool stuff. They won't have that. But anyways, that's enough for today's video. I know I've talked a lot, but I wanted to share this as some food for thought, and I really appreciate you taking the time to watch the video. So thank you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of the week, and I'll see you again in the next video.